Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be starting a new craft project. So I haven't actually made anything crafty since December when I made my Santa's grotto style Christmas house that I had in my window display. So I think it's about time I cracked on with another craft project. Now, I've wanted to kind of get into making a mask of some sort because I have something in mind for a different project later on down the line, but it's super detailed and quite complicated. And I've never made anything that I would physically wear myself in the craft sense. So I'm going to start today by doing something that I hope will be a bit simpler. And I'm going to be making a Mandalorian helmet. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be attempting to do on this project. Should be fun. I think I'm going to try and have a little bit of freedom with the design. Obviously the basic concept is kind of helmet. Should be fairly simple, but yeah, I might add my own little stylized paintwork to it and that sort of thing. So let's work out how I'm going to build this. The Mandalorian helmet is quite recognisable these days, so the visor is at the front and then the typical shape of it over the head as well. I want to make sure my face is fully covered so that you can't see it. The structure on the inside is probably going to be more important than how it looks on the outside due to the fact that I want it to be comfortable to wear, but also have enough room for my ears and my nose that it's not going to be pressing on those. Also, the visor needs to be in line with where my eyes are so I can still see out of it. But we'll add some details afterwards and some paintwork and make sure that I add those Mandalorian-style details on afterwards. But the main structure will be a big part of this build. The first thing I'm going to do is measure my head. Now, I'm just doing a basic strip of cardboard that I'm going to connect together and create kind of a cardboard crown essentially that will fit around my head and that I can start as a base for my helmet. Next, I'm going to build up the base of the helmet, which will sit directly onto my head and hopefully be comfortable enough for me to wear it for a while. Just taking cardboard strips and essentially putting them over the top to sit comfortably on the top of my head. I'll do several of these overlapping just to make sure that it sits as comfortably as possible and will hopefully hold the weight of the rest of the helmet. Okay, so I've got the basic structure. I've had to mark where the front is because obviously my head is not perfectly shaped. So hopefully that will sit more or less flat onto the top of my head there. It's still a little bit flexible, so we can work with that. And then I just need to build up essentially another layer of this so that it'll go over my ears and my nose as well. So I found this padded foam that I think a friend left in a box for me recently. So I figured this would be super sturdy and give that stronger structure. And I've also got some wire as well to keep that curved shape. So hopefully that should help keep everything quite lightweight but firm as well. So hopefully I'll get that going and hopefully I'll not look quite like a mad scientist just yet, but we're getting there. We're making progress. I never ended up actually using the wire for stability with this project. This foam in particular was really firm, as you can see, quite difficult to cut through. but it did make sure that it was really sturdy for the helmet to actually sit on. I attached these pieces of foam to the base of the helmet just using hot glue. I put them at every point that I thought would need a bit of stability, so everywhere that was connected to the initial headband of the helmet, the top, and also at key points to keep the structure of the helmet as well. Well, I bet this looks super weird, but we'll keep going. We'll build up the outer part of the helmet now, and hopefully this will put enough space around my head that it won't look too big, but it'll definitely give the space I need to get around my ears and my nose. So let's do the outer structure now. I repeated the initial process of using cardboard strips to create the dome shape along the top of the helmet. This structure I felt was giving us a good base to build up our helmet top and to attach the sides of the helmet to as well. It felt really sturdy and I was super confident in it working. Next, I wanted to fill in the gaps in between all of these strips of cardboard here, kind of like a baseball cap, but filling in all of those sort of leaf-shaped panels. And I just used cardboard for this process again, tracing out the same shape and then attaching it with hot glue as well. I used the edge of my counter to help create that curve in all the cardboard to help give that round shape to the helmet. Now that the dome top of the helmet was complete, I wanted to work on the sides of the helmet. So I marked out roughly where I wanted the side to be and attached it with hot glue. I had all these different panels that I could easily measure and attach onto the side so it would all be the same length. Before I continue on with the sides of the helmet, I'm going to cut the pattern for the eyes out so I'll be able to see. I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but hopefully I should be able to get this in the right position. I'm hoping this is going to be long enough, but I guess we'll see. And then eventually, I know it's a bit rough looking at the minute, but I am going to papier-mâché over the top of this and then smooth it all out. So hopefully it doesn't look a bit comedic in size. So yeah, I'm going to just work out where my eyes are going to go. And then because I'm going to do a helmet to my personal style, I think I'm going to go for the kind of cat eye style visor like Bo-Katan has, because that seems to be the more feminine Mando helmet from the series at least. It certainly seems to be a bit more of a feminine look to it. So yeah, we're going to do the visor next. I roughly marked out where my eyes and my nose were going to be on this piece of cardboard, and then making sure it would mirror and look the same, I folded it in half and cut out the shape I was after. Had to make a couple of alterations to the initial cutout to make sure that my face would sit properly in the area that I was making the shape for. I then just attached this to the helmet using hot glue. Then I attached the side panels on using the same technique. So I've decided that I didn't like how bulbous the top of the helmet was looking. It was looking a bit too comedic for my personal liking. So I've decided to take the top part of the helmet apart, and I'm actually removing the sort of second layer of the top of the helmet, and then I'm going to reattach it to the lower part of the helmet and hope that that gives the effect that I want it to. I just didn't want it to look out of proportion, and it felt out of proportion to me. So fingers crossed my hacking skills are gonna save this a little bit. This was the start of a lot of tweaking around to try and get the right shape. So last night I had a bit of a crisis and actually hated the shape that the helmet was starting to be. It looked really comical, and I just decided to basically hack it into pieces, make the foamy bits inside about half the size, and then sort of reattach the helmet top. I also added these sort of bits at the front to kind of bring the shape of it down along my jawline a little bit more to hide my face. So I'm happier with the shape. I'm hoping that a layer of papier-mâché and then maybe sanding it back a little bit and then building up those layers of papier-mâché will kind of really start to make it come into its own and make it feel smoother and more the shape that I'm after. But yeah, a serious learning curve with not measuring anything. I'm notorious for that. So I'm just kind of hoping that I can fix my errors with this next stage, which will be the papier-mâché. Thank goodness for papier-mâché. It was going to hide the multitude of sins I have created with this horrible helmet shape. So I just basically kept adding layers and adding layers to try and hide all of these overlapping pieces of cardboard and to help try and create that dome on the top. I tried to save it as much as I possibly could, but you could still see the main ridges where the pieces of cardboard were overlapping. But the papier-mâché certainly did hide where the connections were along the edges and certainly helped flatten out some of it, so it wasn't all lost. Okay, so I've completed the basic Mandalorian helmet shape. I'm just waiting for the papier-mâché layers to dry now. I think I've done about 3 or 4 layers. Now I'm going to start making the details that are on the side of the helmet and on the back of the helmet. Now, a lot of the detail I'm probably going to paint on later, but there are some 3-dimensional elements that I definitely want to have on the helmet to make it look more in keeping with the Mandalorian style. So we'll get cracking with that. I took inspiration from other Mandalorian helmet designs and have these 2 side pieces and a back piece onto the helmet. There are quite a few individual pieces that I wanted to create to have that 3-dimensional look on the side of the helmet. So I basically used the base shape and then built up over that, using that as a template and then bringing in the shapes to add on top, and then basically repeated that for the other side as well, so they looked identical. Once I'd got all my individual pieces, I just hot glued them all together and then put layers of papier-mâché over them. The back piece was much simpler in design, so I just used one of the side pieces as a basic template and then built up the design that would be more or less exactly the same as it is on every Mandalorian helmet. Once I had all the pieces cut out and ready, I just hot glued them together and did a papier-mâché layer over this piece as well. Once all these pieces were dry, I just attached them to the main helmet with hot glue. So I'm just starting to try and smooth down all these areas and try and hide the overlapping paper look. I'm just using sandpaper, quite fine sandpaper, to fine down those edges. And Then I'm going to go over again with some PVA glue and then probably go back, do that a couple of times and just see how smooth I can get it before I give up and want to just get on with painting, which is my favourite bit. So we'll do this and we'll try and make it as smooth as possible and then we'll get on to the fun bit. This technique actually worked out a lot better than I was expecting it to. All the sides of the pieces of paper did seem to disappear somewhat the more I sanded down, but I had to be super careful to not go through too many layers or to pull it off, which is why I kept gluing in between. So I was doing this a couple of times, but it really did have a good overall effect after doing it a couple of times. So I think I'm done with the sanding and the layers of PVA now. I don't think I can get it much smoother really without compromising the structure inside the helmet. So I'm going to move on to mapping out where I want the paintwork to go. There's a design I've seen that's based on a female Mandalorian mask, so I'm going to probably do something similar to that and then we'll get on to painting. Using the design I'd seen as inspiration, I just used a Sharpie to map out the rough sections of where I wanted to paint and the rough design that I wanted to have on the helmet. Once I was happy with the overall design, I could get stuck into painting finally. I wanted to give a nod to the material of Beskar steel that the Mandalorians used to make most of their armour. Unfortunately, I don't have a silver paint, but I do have this gold type paint, so I mixed it with a bit of black acrylic to try and darken it a little bit and just add some of the details onto the helmet. I then went round some more details just with plain white and was contemplating what colour I wanted for my main colour on this helmet. I decided to go for this teal green colour. I definitely wanted a green as a bit of a nod to Boba Fett, as he was the first Mandalorian character I ever saw while watching the Star Wars movies in the original trilogy, so I knew I wanted a green, but decided to go for a teal over a khaki green, as I just prefer a teal green personally, and it was my helmet after all. Supposedly certain colours are meant to mean certain things within Mandalorian armour, and green is meant to represent a sense of duty. However, gold is also meant to represent vengeance, so I'm not sure what that says about me and this particular armour, but either way, I just wanted it to be representative of me and what colours I like. So I've finished the basic layer of paint on the helmet now. For some reason, I don't know whether it's the paint or the PVA base, but the green seems to have kind of cracked and given this really odd effect onto the helmet. I kind of like it though. It does make it look a bit more worn. So that's what I'm going to work on next, is adding the weathering and the details onto all of the bits of the helmet, make it look like it's been passed down from generation to generation and that it has seen some battles. So we'll start doing that. Wanted to add a lot of dry brushed textures to the helmet now to bring out all of those little details and bits and crevices. So using a very, very lightly painted brush, I went over all of the metallic details, went into all the little crevices with a bit of a darker wash, just to pick out all of those little dirty bits that would get stuck in there, and added some texture onto the metallic pieces there. I then took a sponge and using that to create a sort of chipped paint look onto areas of the helmet. Now I think I might have gone a little bit mad here with doing maybe a bit much, but I was just getting really into it and really loving the effect it was doing. I went over these areas with a bit of a darker colour and went in with little lighter colours, a little bit of white, a little bit of lime green, and just really had a lot of fun with it. I really liked how it turned out. It did look like a lot of the paint had chipped, or that it'd been scuffed, or maybe it'd been like scraped with a sharp claw or a bullet maybe, and that was exactly the type of effect I was wanting. I wanted this helmet to look like it has seen some stuff. So I really enjoyed making this helmet look damaged and dirty and like it had been through some things. I think I actually went back and covered some more areas with the original green just to pull it back a little bit from my madness. Now was the time to put the final piece of the puzzle in with the visor. Now I took a plastic wallet here and just cut it to shape and then glued it into place, making sure that the mask was more or less flat onto that and that it was glued securely into place. I then just trimmed around the edges and made sure that that was completing the look. And it's finished. I'm pretty chuffed with how it's come out. I think that the sort of weathering detail and the visor now being complete has really brought it all together as a Mandalorian helmet. Things that I would have done differently, or maybe we'll do differently next time, definitely the top of the helmet. I don't like these ridges in it. It's just unfortunate that I didn't think to do the papier-mâché over a balloon before I'd already started building it. I had that epiphany much later on, and it was a bit too late to be changing it, but maybe next time I'll start doing that first and then build down from it. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased overall. I think it has the effect that I'm after, and yeah, it was good fun. Besides paying for a folder to do the visor on the front, I don't think I spent anything on this build. So considering it's cost me €1, I'm pretty pleased, and I think it looks way worth that. So thanks so much for following along on this little craft journey. I hope you stick around for the next one, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.